on this Tuesday in my Tuesday attire. For some reason, I just like to wear this shirt the wrong way around. And I am busy with work, so I just wanted to pop on here and give you a little bit of an update on my reading, Victober, etc. So first thing I want to talk about is the DNF. I decided to not continue on with my brilliant career. Which is sad because, it was one of my Australian Victober novels written at the very end, just coming in at 1899 or so. And the thing about it is, it's not bad. I guess is what I want to do. It's not bad, but I'm in this phase of being so busy and get very precious with my time that it wasn't sort of compelling enough for me to want to continue. And so the writing is not bad. She was very young when she wrote it. And so I just, the plot elements of her meeting these people, these suitors who are unsuitable, and her sort of tone is cheerful and somewhat sort of Australian. For some reason, it almost come off as sort of Dickensian, sort of the funny, humoresque, these portrayals of people who are obviously sort of larger than life or just eccentrics, and she herself is a bit of an eccentric. But in terms of the plot, so she describes her kind of fall of the family. They fall into poverty more or less, and she's on the farm. And that was actually quite interesting. But then she moves into town to be with a relative, and it's just turned into her kind of interactions with these people there. And I just I didn't want to continue. It's as basic as that. It wasn't that interesting to me, and so I gave up because I'm busy. And that's not to say that some of my viewers might actually like it more than I did, or be less. I admit that I'm rather impatient. I get impatient with books, and I give them up. I DNF fairly, if I don't like it, I don't like it, and I don't want to read it. So, not bad, but not good enough for me right now. The big one that I finished, and it was mainly on audio, although I would peek into my paperback copies here. So Kristin Lavransdatter, the whole thing. And so I divided it up into 3 books because some people do. But I listened to the more modern translation. And so what was interesting about my experience with the whole thing was to look in here and see how different it was. And initially I thought that, I think the modern one was probably easier to listen to. But, this is a novel written at the turn of the century, well, a little bit later, the 20s. In the 20s, it says here. But it's about 14th century Norway. So, it's like a double historical novel in that sense. And so I could sort of see how perhaps reading it with a slightly more old-fashioned translation might give you more of a sense of it taking place a long time ago, 14th century. The new one is perhaps a little too modern. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. Anyway, so my thoughts are because of busyness and unable to sort of write them out, or just even, I'm still sort of responding and reacting to how I felt about the whole thing, which is that it's an amazing work of fiction, and then you should all go read it. Either listen to it. The audio is quite good, but it's definitely up there. Almost, it's Tolstoyan in a certain sense. It was more reminiscent of Tolstoy than other people. In a way, more reminiscent of Tolstoy than other Victorians, for example, like the Brits or something. And so, but it's still sort of interesting because what happens is you start off with this one, and I remember saying, and I still stand by, this is like. Okay, imagine Little House on the Prairie in Norway in the 14th century, because it really kind of had that sort of farming and her close relationship to her father. Good things happen, bad things happen, beautiful descriptions of nature, the family. It was just delightful all the way around. And then she moves off into the cloister, and I'm trying to remember when this finished, how far along in the story. That's the only thing I should have checked on that. Anyway, at some point she's going to meet her destiny in the form of her man. His name is Erland. Erland is her downfall, her everything. She meets Erland at some point, either at the end here and so the story with Erland is very, very interesting. So she, basically they start hanging out, and he, very modern term, and he basically does, or she falls for him very deeply, and it's very much clear that she falls for him because she's attracted to him, like she's attracted to his appearance, physical appearance, and she's already betrothed to some other guy, Simon, whom she's definitely, it's quite clear, it's really kind of male gazy in that sense. She's just not attracted to Simon, however nice of a fellow he is. You know, there's hints that he's a little bit stout, he's got curly hair, his personality is great, but Erland is a looker. We have to figure out who would play him in a movie, because it's almost as if the whole fate is her connected to her, like falling for or prioritizing the fact that she is physically attracted to Erland. That really kind of, even through all of the things they have to go through, especially Kristen, but yeah, it's quite interesting, and that is quite modern, I think. But it's sort of wrapped up in her feelings of guilt and shame for the fact that she did fall for him before marriage. And part of I'm trying to see this one, I guess, mainly, is it takes a long time before they are even allowed to be betrothed, because of the fact that she was betrothed to someone else, and then she has to tell her father, and it's all very dramatic. And you really feel for her, mainly. Erland is like, okay, he's hot, whatever. He likes her. And then but then what happens in both of these books, the whole tone changes, it's no longer delightful and charming. It's about adult living of this great lady. So one of the things about Kristen is, I'm trying to sort of pinpoint, she's one of these people who she's almost always kind of better than her environment. She's more intelligent, she's very efficient, she's good at her work, and yet she's the woman. So, you know, the patriarchy is what she's up against. And one of the main things that happens here is that she gives birth to 7 sons. And so a big theme of the middle book is her relationship to her babies, her children, her pregnancies. Like the first pregnancy is described in quite great detail, and it's really well done. It's all very, it's really compelling. That's why you should all read it. It's great. But the thing is, it's also kind of frustrating because her marriage is just extremely frustrating. And yet she never really unloves him, and he's by far the more frustrating of the two, I would say. But it's as if, this is kind of a silly comment, but I can't help thinking that, marriage counseling would have helped these two. He is what he is, sort of, and part of what's annoying in the second book, to my mind, is how unable he is to appreciate the hardships of being a mother. And there's even at some point this hint that he's like exasperated for her because she keeps getting pregnant. Excuse me. I thought that was so outrageous on his part. It's like, yeah, well, I wonder why, Helen. And that's kind of with the modern, like, excuse me, come on, family planning, whatever, he's always upset that she's pregnant. It's like, well, it's just, jaw-droppingly old-fashioned in that sense. And he's not a good father in the sense that he doesn't really help her at all. And he doesn't understand her. He doesn't understand. And the thing is, in the beginning, he's not really very nice to her. Like, he's not nice. He's off being his, happy-go-lucky chieftain, good-looking, not a good farmer, not a good housekeeper. He's just none of those things. And the thing is, she fell for someone like that. He's almost like, I remember thinking at some point, he's like a Peter Pan almost. He's sort of flighty. And there's moments where he is sort of an interesting character. At the end, things happen here that I won't go into, but they're just, the relationship is fascinating, but it does turn more into a, you know, Bergman movie. It's no longer Little House on the Prairie. Even though, I mean, as I recall, the last books of Little House weren't that happy either, but Armanzo's not Erland. I don't think you could say that at all. So the analogy kind of falls apart. But still very good, and it's like the family. And then at the end it gets sort of political, and that's also kind of, that's why it is epic, and it has a sweep to it, and you should all just go read it because it's fantastic. And I don't think it's very sort of intimidating or anything. It's just a family saga with you know, there's stuff kind of about living in Norway. There's sort of hints of, like, there's one character who's sort of a wise woman who knows stuff about herbs and things. So you get enough of the setting for it to be also enjoyable. And it's well written, you know, the writing's great. And then the cross is continuing on with the adult aspects and the less joyous stuff. It's all about her adult sons and her relationship to them and what happens to Erland, and then it ends with her death. I mean, I don't really think that's a spoiler. It's a life story, and it's all very, very poignant. But I actually kind of like the ending. I mean, I think it's sad because of, I won't say exactly anything about the ending, but the author makes a point, and it may even be the only time that the author, Sigrid Undset, mentions a year, but she mentions that it's the year 1349. I think that's what I'm pretty sure that's what she says. And I'm not going to say why that's significant, but you can either figure it out even by me saying that year, or just go Google it and you'll figure it out. And I like the ending though, because I kind of knew from the cover, you know, she religion does play is another motif of the book, and it is kind of connected to her continual feelings of, I'm not sure if it's shame or guilt about you know, cohabitating and, you know, premarital sex, basically. She never quite got over that because she realizes that her parents never quite got over that. And it's interesting how the religion enters into things, and quite well done. Even as a non-religious person, I was kind of down with it because I think it's interesting. I'm always interested in, that's why I like George Eliot, because it's like spirituality or questions of morality and how you connect it to living the good life. And yeah, anyway, excellent read. You should all read Kristin Lavransdatter. You know, I am a fan of Undset. I would read other things by Undset, maybe not right away, but good stuff. Moving on to Victober stuff. So I've started this one, and it's beautiful and wonderful. I love it already. The Last Chronicle of Barsetshire. If I had more time, or what I might do when I get a little less busy with work, I would like to do a reading vlog, which I've never really done. I've done like lifestyle vlogs where I just show you, but it ends up on those days I don't really talk about my reading much. But I want to try and come on here and maybe collect snippets from my week as to what I thought about exactly what I'm reading at that moment, which I like about reading vlogs. You kind of get the experience, and do that with this one. And I think the next Victober one I want to just try because I'm interested, because some people have said they don't like Conrad's style. They think he's boring, or they just don't like it. So what I wanted to maybe, and this is the one I'm most drawn to, start next, as opposed to Jerome, K. Jerome, or the other ones. Do a reading vlog where I start reading this and maybe DNF it. We'll see. I'm completely open. I'm completely open to not liking it or liking it, and I hope I like it. You know, I like the cover. And I did like Heart of Darkness. I mean, I don't remember it that well, but so we'll see. I am at 14 minutes. I have stuff to do. I will snippet this together. I mean, I don't really edit. I'll just slap some photos on the beginning and a nice little piece of music, and you'll watch it. And let me know what you think of all my readings. Are you tempted, or have you read Sigrid Undset's great novel? And let me know what you're all up to. And thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.